Hello, welcome to this introductory video about the Palliser Futures project. This project is a community conversation about the future of the Palliser region. Ultimately, it aims to create a shared vision for this important region of Alberta. The project is being hosted and sponsored by the Palliser Economic Partnership. My name is David Burrell.
And my name is Juliette Fox, and we are from a company called Innovative Leadership. And David and I will be leading you through some discussions about the future of the Palliser region today.
So let me talk a moment about why having a shared vision for a region is important. Our company has the opportunity to work around the world with regions as they wrestle with their future. One of the things that we've discovered and what is now being well known around the world, that having a shared vision that people can work together on is critically important. Why is this? Well, looking at this diagram, this is often how regions look. The regions will be full of committed groups of people. These could be service groups, boards, organisations, elected officials, etc. And in fact, if you're watching this video, you're probably a member of one or more of these types of organisations in your region. Now, often what happens in a region, these groups, while they're there, are somewhat unfocused. So each group is doing its own thing. It thinks about what it should be doing, it raises resources, it takes actions, etc. But collectively across the region, the efforts of those groups are not aligned and they're a little unfocused. Now, this is the normal picture. However, there are some problems with this. You can inadvertently have conflict, you can have wasted resources, but most importantly, you can't really answer the question, where are we going? What we've discovered in working with regions around the world, that successful regions today look a little bit more like this, which is that those same groups are there, however, they're aligned in a fundamentally different way. Their efforts are building on each other as they move towards a shared vision. The arrows in this diagram are pointing to what would be that vision of the future that people share for their region. Through this video and through the Palliser Futures project, this is going to be creating this very important notion of what is the shared future for the Palliser region. So let me explain what the process is that's been going on in the region. So this work is a year-long process. It started in October last year at the Growing in Rural Alberta Symposium in Medicine Hat. At that workshop, we conducted a scenario plan exercise, which we'll talk more about as we go through this video. Then through the course of this year, 2010, from May until November, there's a whole range of community conversations. This is the opportunity for people in the region to explore and understand the scenarios for the future, and importantly have their say about what they would see as the preferred future for the Palliser region. Then in November this year at the Growing in Rural Alberta Symposium in Medicine Hat, all this work will be brought together and the community will sign off on an agreed vision for the future. So let me quickly run through the scenario planning process so you understand what's happened. So first of all, we started to look at questions about the future. We wanted to understand the future and how that might be shaping us. We looked at a whole range of things, including the forces that are shaping the world. We looked at the big global drivers, things like energy consumption increasing around the planet, the increase in wealth and workforce in China and India and the impact of that on regions like Alberta. We talked about the decline of the US power, we talked about climate change, and of course we talked about the very important changes that are occurring because of the recent global financial meltdown. We then also started to talk about what were the key drivers that will shape the future of the Palliser region. The participants at the workshop did the work to identify the top 20 drivers shaping the future of the Palliser region. And here are those drivers. You can see that there's across the board here. There's everything from environmental issues such as the lack of water, there's economic issues such as the health of agriculture and various industry sectors, there's issues there about the society such as the youth outmigration, etc. So this is a very complete set and a holistic set of the critical drivers shaping the future of this region. Now, in scenario planning, we have a particular process to be able to make sense of this diverse range of drivers. And here's how we do it. The participants rank those drivers on a scale of importance and a scale of uncertainty. Now, ultimately, what we're looking for is clusters of drivers in the upper right-hand quadrant of this matrix. And you can see here we've highlighted two clusters of drivers that were seen as important for the future. Now, in the scenario planning work, we bring these drivers together under themes. And here's how they came out in the Palliser region. So the first theme was about a responsiveness to the external economy, and you can see that the drivers that were identified there are clustered under that theme. The other major theme is about the ability to capitalise on the local resources. So importantly, this is about, we may be a resource-rich region in Palliser, but how do we capitalise on that? How do we make the most use of that? Now, in scenario planning, we use these two major themes to create scenario spaces that give us an idea about different possible futures in front of the region. Here's how we do that. So in this diagram, you can see we took the ability to capitalise on local resources and we put that on the horizontal axis. We took the responsiveness to the external economy and we put that on the vertical axis. And at each end of those axes, you can see there's a decrease and increase. So we're really asking the question about how would the region look under these different sets of conditions. So for example, in scenario A, we're saying, well, this is a set of conditions where the region would be facing a decreasing ability to capitalise on the local resources, but it would be more responsive to the external environment. How would the future of the Palliser region look under those conditions? So in scenario planning, we're creating 4 different plausible versions of the future. The workshop did a lot of work on these. People looked at the triple bottom line of those scenarios, what the implications would be. They looked out as far as 2010, 2020 and 2030 to see how the future might look. In other words, we developed detailed pictures about those 4 different versions of the future.
Let's take a few minutes to walk through the scenario thinking that was done for the Palliser region. Taking the first scenario, the chameleon follow the leader, we see an increase in the responsiveness to the external economy. In other words, a great ability to react to global forces and changes going on in the world. This is also characterized by a decrease in the ability to capitalize on local resources. In other words, not really able to take full advantage of the local resources. Now, in the symposium, each of the 4 scenarios were described in great detail. Here's a few of the characteristics that the participants felt the chameleon follow the leader scenario really might have. Education might be focused on embracing external opportunities. There might be a stabilized population, but there'd be a decline in traditional economies, and it would be replaced by emerging economic trends. So quickly reacting to those global trends might be IT, it might be new energies. The government support is increased, local resources might become depleted, yet the community can't really differentiate itself, and it follows the global trends, but it loses a bit of its own character. The second scenario is Southern Alberta naturally. This is characterized by an increase in the ability to respond to the external economy. And it's also characterized by an ability to capitalize on local resources. So not only in this scenario is the Palliser region able to respond to global changes, but it's also able to pull itself together at a local level and really take full advantage of the resources available to them. Some of the characteristics listed by the participants were education focused on local needs and embracing global trends. Energy resources are diversified. We might see bedroom communities created in this scenario. Demographics are balanced within an increased older population and a strong presence of youth. The economy is diversified, systems established, embracing and emerging opportunities, and people have really come together to think about the land. The next scenario is the biodome living in a bubble. Now, the ability to capitalize on local resources is still increased, but the region is really unable to react to global forces, react to global changes. Some of those characteristics were predicted to be population is aging. There'd be a loss of youth into larger communities. We could perhaps see some diversity that's celebrated in the community. A boost to the economy initially, where entrepreneurs are able to really set up many niche markets that really characterize the local resources. Education is focused on local needs and community partnerships. Conservation and recycling efforts are enhanced. And really the overall character of this scenario is that it does great in the beginning. People are really pumped up to be able to use their own resources and rely on themselves and build new economies. But over time, as the global forces change, the region is unable to react in the same way and can't react and go with the flow of the global forces of change. The last scenario was called down but not out. Now, the characteristics here are an inability to capitalize on those local resources, paired with an unresponsiveness to the external economy. Characteristics in this were predicted to be a decreased government support and funding, a sense of disempowerment and apathy, perhaps a movement toward large agricultural units, or the water supply is now depleted, and there might even be importing of water. New community members feel unwelcome, and there was a bit of a light that the population would feel a bit of safety. There'd be less population, everyone would know each other. So those are the 4 scenarios that were created for the Palliser region.
So here's the scenario grid that Juliet's just gone through, which shows the 4 scenarios that were created by the participants at the Palliser Symposium. These 4 scenarios represent 4 plausible versions of the future in front of the Palliser region. When we tested this back with the symposium participants, they felt that each of these was plausible, as in it could possibly happen. Now, the power of scenario thinking is it lays out in front of us the different range of possible futures that are before a region. And if you think about it, if you're standing today in 2010, there really is no single future in front of the Palliser region. And these 4 scenarios at least give us a very good idea of the different types of futures that might happen. Now, here's the interesting part. Which one of these futures would be the one you'd prefer to have? Because these futures will happen as a result of the actions and inactions of local people. So the question that we're posing to the region and to the citizens of the region is, looking at this range of scenarios, which of these would resonate with you? Which of these would be the scenario you would aspire to have for your region? So if you think about it, where do you think you're currently heading? If you were to think about those different scenarios, where do you think your region is heading right now? And what are the indications of that, and why? And then, which scenario for the region would you like to have? What would you want to strive to, and why? Which parts of these scenarios resonate with you that you'd want to see your future in? So that's the end of our video. Thank you for watching. We would like you to complete a survey. There's a survey link on the website, and this is your opportunity to have comments and inputs and be part of shaping the shared vision for the Palliser region. Thank you for your time.